Okay, it's Sunday, which means against my better judgment, it's time to go to Reddit and see what we can find in this hive of scum and villainy. So I went to the Overwatch University subreddit ahead of time and just scraped all the questions off the first couple pages, and we're going to answer the questions now. Why is Dragon Ball FighterZ playing in the background if we're talking about Overwatch? What are you, a cop? You know you gotta tell me if you're a cop, right? So, and if you're wondering which side I'm on, just look for which other side started with Android 21, or is all three blue boys, because I've been messing around with that one too. So, first question is, we got a couple really straightforward questions, so we'll start with those first. First off is, do D.Va's micro-missiles have fall-off damage? And the answer is no, they don't. Most projectiles don't have fall-off damage. The exceptions would be shotguns, pretty much. So, we got that. Then the other one is exact words. There we go. Now, I actually didn't know this one. I thought I did, but I looked it up just to make sure. Turns out I was wrong. The question is, does Reaper gain ult charge from his self-healing? And no, he doesn't, actually. Which is kind of weird. I feel like he should, right? Just to make it, like, consistent with other self-healing in the game. But, you know, whatever. Turns out, no, Reaper doesn't gain ult charge from his self-healing. Then next up was, how do you counter Double Shield, Bastion, and Batista? And the problem is, with any kind of comp like this, ones that revolve around Bastion or just like bunker comps in general, the problem with those comps is that they are using teamwork, and it is very hard to counter teamwork without teamwork of your own. So it kind of needs to be a group effort to actually deal with these kind of comps. The best you can do as a singular entity... What the fuck was he doing? The best you can do as a singular entity is pretty much pick Sombra and try to farm Emp as quickly as possible, but that's going to be really hard as well versus that kind of comp. You're going to build Emp really slowly versus any kind of comp like this, so it's going to be really stressful for you. But like, that's the easiest way to deal with it. Without teamwork, right? You know, if you got teamwork, then you can do stuff like Lucio speed boost in and just try to, like, get the Bastion as quickly as possible. You can try stuff like Nano... It's a little weird, but Nano Boost Doomfist's ult actually kills a lot of things pretty good, so you got that option if you got some teamwork. You can try running the exact same comp back at them. And this is like an old school thing. If you thought they were gonna do Pirate Ship on Junkertown, or any other map with a payload map with Bastion pretty much, then the best thing you could do a lot of the time was just also pick Bastion. Because then they have a lot harder time just like going through with their shield, because they have to push into your Bastion, so he'll get to fire first at their shield usually, and just plow through that. So you can try running the same comp back at them, but that'll have mixed results as well. I mean, everything's gonna have mixed results, isn't it? Let's be honest, but you can try that. You can go with stuff like, pick Junkrat, because he's just good at, like, breaking shields and punishing people for all standing close together. Hanzo, build up Dragon Strike as quickly as possible. Roadhog and Ana, because if you can get an opportunity to shoot past the shields, you can trank the Bastion, anti-heal the Bastion, or hook the Bastion, and then that can work. But that's predicated on the fact that they have to give you an opportunity to get the shot in, right? Which you might not get. So those are about your only options. I think the best option you've got as a single person is Sombra, but it is still going to be really hard to do it as Sombra, unfortunately. So that's pretty much what you got. Those are your odds. It's very hard to do. It's very hard to do that. So, next up was... This is probably going to be pretty short, also, because there weren't that many questions this week, surprisingly enough. At least not ones that there was anything to say anything about, because there were a lot of, like, why can't I climb? Blah, 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 blah. No video attached. You know, standard stuff like that. So, there weren't that many questions this week, and a couple were just, like, throwaway questions, as we saw. So... Oh, this is a good one. I'm familiar with the man I played against in this game. That's me on the right side with the two blue boys, seeing as we both started 21. I know this guy that we played against right here, and oh, my man, he's a very big fan of disrespecting people. You'll see in this game. So, next up was... which ultimates would you consider as pre-engagement ultimates? And... There aren't very many of them. We've got Nano Boost, because you'll put that on somebody right before they engage. You've got Amplification Matrix, because you'll want to use that as soon as possible in the team fight, or just before it starts, so that, you know, Reinhardt can get that juicy fire strike that one-shots the squishies in, which is always a favorite. For me, Moira is also a pre-engagement ultimate. Like, you don't have to. I'm not saying it's purely that, but... quite often when I'm playing Moira, I'll just use Coalescence before the team fight starts to try and get some momentum going. Sound Barrier also can be a pre-engage. There's a lot of support ultimates, as you might have noticed. There you go, see? There's a lot of support ultimates that are the pre-engagement ultimates. Sound Barrier can be a pre-engagement ultimate. You can also use it in the fight as well, but, you know... common use for Sound Barrier is use it to make your engage stronger. Everybody's got the big beefy shield on them. Because as well, if we're going pre-engagement ultimates, right, we can't say ults that are engagements, because you would use Earth Shatter before the team fight starts, but that's the engage. It's not the pre-engage, is it? So, Ana, Batista, Moira, Lucio... anybody else? No, sometimes McCree, sometimes D.Va. Because you can use those ultimates just to cover the actual engage that's happening. No, those are pretty much the only, like, pre-engage ultimates, I think. The big ones are Ana, Batista... Moira and Lucio, though. You'll hear a lot of people will disagree with me on Moira, but Moira is, like, pretty good for getting your team to actually move forward. Next up was, is it worth using Emp to counter Hammond's mines? And... not just for the mines, I don't think. Unless, like, the mines are in such a position where it looks like they're actually going to kill your entire team, which is... not impossible for that to be the case, but is pretty unlikely for it to be the case. So I wouldn't use it just to counter Hammond's mines, no. I would use it to counter Hammond's mines if something else was also happening. Like, I'll also emp a bunch of people in the team fight, or I'll also, like, ruin someone else's ultimate at the same time, but I wouldn't use them for just Hammond's mines unless we were in, like... a real disastrous looking situation. Just because Hammond's mines aren't that scary. They can be really inconvenient depending on how they're used, but they're not like a scary ultimate a lot of the time, you know? Didn't I lose to this guy? Yeah, so we'll pick one that we lost, lest I be accused of cherry picking. So, no, not just for the mines, I don't think. Try and get a little bit more value out of it than that. How do you block Earth Shatter in the middle of a team fight as Reinhardt? And the person in the thread basically said, you know, they had an issue with autopiloting and just swinging into people as soon as a team fight's happening. And one thing I would say is try not to do that as Reinhardt in the middle of a team fight, because even when you're just like, you actually get the opportunity to go in and do some swinging as Reinhardt, you still should be trying to leverage the shield as much as possible. Like, you should still be throwing it up to, like, block damage as much as possible, and, like, you should always be paying attention to the enemy Reinhardt. Like, you should never not be thinking about his Earth Shatter, because that's so much of what Reinhardt revolves around. I just, like... what I do is if I know he's got Earth Shatter in the team fight, I just still am only really focusing on the Reinhardt until I see him use the Earth Shatter, or I have a really good opportunity to do Earth Shatter instead. I really shouldn't have worked, and I was surprised it worked at the time. Like, I'm still always thinking about it, so I'm just trying to bait it out of him during the team fight still, because I'm not gonna I'm not gonna risk it, pretty much. If I think he's got it, until I see him use it, or I use mine on his team first, like, I don't stop thinking about it. So I'll just keep trying to bait it out of him in the team fight. So I'll go for, you know, the swing, put the shield up, the classic bait, pretty much. But yeah, I just, pretty much, you just can't ignore the Reinhardt at any point in time. You always have, if you're playing Reinhardt, and you think he's got Earth Shatter, you can't ever just assume... Oh my god, I'm so bad, Jesus Christ. I even knew he did it, and then just fucked it up still anyway. You can't ever just, like, autopilot. So it's really, you know, for the person specifically, it's a matter of don't autopilot in the fight. You should still be trying to use your shield as much as possible. And if you think he's got Earth Shatter, just continue playing around Earth Shatter as usual, even during the team fight. Get as much damage in as you can, but, like, don't take your eyes off of him. Like, still just keep trying to bait it out of him as much as possible. I don't like to swing in team fights until I've seen him use the Earth Shatter, just because, like, if I stop, right, if I stop paying attention to him, and he does Earth Shatter my team when I go in to start swinging, like, the penalty that I'm subjected to is losing the team fight, right? Whereas if I continue to play around his Earth Shatter, the penalty I'm subjected to is doing less damage in the team fight. This is significantly better than losing the fight. So I'll just sacrifice. He shouldn't have done that. Does it work? Okay, thank God. Jesus Christ. If I actually got hit by that, I would have been so mad. So, like, yeah, the risk of not paying attention is losing the fight. The risk otherwise is doing less damage. One of these downsides is a lot better than the other one, right? So just don't ignore the Reinhardt. Continue paying attention to him until you know he's used it. So that's what I got for you, really. Like, there's no, like, cheat sheet answer to it, pretty much. Like, he'll do it in exposition, why, blah, 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 blah. You just have to, keep paying attention to him. Try not to go on autopilot is the answer, which sounds like a bit of a cop-out, but it is the answer. Next up was, which tank do you pick when the other tank picks Hammond? And this was specifically asking for advice in, like, the gold and silver-ish range, but just broadly speaking, I'd encourage you to think of someone picking Hammond as them picking an off-tank. Because there's two reasons for that. First off, the person picking Hammond, let's be honest, odds are good they won't be that good at Hammond. And you can play Hammond as a main tank, sure, you can do that. The thing is, though, that it's nowhere near as intuitive doing that, to play with Hammond as your main tank, as it is to play with, like, any other main tank, right? So your teammates also will probably not know how to play with Hammond as a main tank, and that guy probably doesn't know how to play Hammond as a main tank either. So I encourage you to think of him as an off-tank. So it kind of depends on, like, what the rest of your team comp is, basically. If you've got mostly a dive comp, you've got, like, dive DPS, like Pharah, Genji, you know, Tracer, Sombra, you know, something to that effect, then you might as well just pick Winston, and just go in with the dive comp, pretty much. If your DPS are more static, you've got something like McCree, Ashe, McCree, Ashe, Soldier Ashe, Soldier McCree, you know, some Hanzo Soldier, something to that effect, more long-range DPS, then I'll pick Reinhardt. I mean, I'll pick Reinhardt a lot of the time regardless, but you don't have a dive comp at that point. You're more close to having, like, a static comp, just Hammond's there as well. So at that point, you're pretty much playing, like, a regular 2-2-2 comp, but that would go, like, you've seen the teams go, like, Reinhardt, D.Va a lot of the time, right? It's kind of the same thing, it's just the D.Va's the Hammond instead, so I'll pick Rein then, Winston if it's a more dive kind of comp, but I do encourage you to think of Hammond as an off-tank, at least until higher ranks. Maybe once you get to, like, Diamond ish. It's more viable to play with Hammond as your main tank, but like the problem is as well, people are bad all the way up, so don't get too excited still, even when you get to Grandmasters and that guy picks Hammond, like, don't get too excited even then. The guy is probably still bad, because it's bad people all the way up. Every Elo's Elo Hell, it's just Elo Hell for different reasons. But, you know, those are the ones. If you are confident the Hammond is going to play Hammond well and your team's going to play well, maybe like you're actually playing with a team, you know, which was when you could kind of guarantee this, then you can kind of just go with whatever as far as off tanks go, just play it by, again, the rest of the comp. So you could go like Diva still, you know, and just basically go dive comp, but instead of Winston, it's Hammond. Zarya was always old school off tank for dive comps, because you bubble the Winston as he goes in. Same deal, you can bubble the Hammond as he goes in, and that can help cover the Hammond from things like crowd control. If they got a Sombra, the bubble will help stop him getting hacked as he tries to initiate a fight. So the Diva's a good one as well. Diva, Zarya, and you know, Roadhog's fine, but like if you got Hammond as your main tank, you're probably a dive comp. Roadhog doesn't do too well with dive compositions, really. So yeah, there you go. And next, and this is actually the last question. See, I told you we didn't have many questions this week. There were a lot, and like 2 of them were just complete like throwaway 1-sentence answer questions, right? So, short video this week. It'd be like that sometimes. We've done well, like every video prior to this point has been somewhere in the region of like 30 minutes to an hour long, so hey, it couldn't always be like that, and some people are probably like, thank God it's gonna be only like 25 minutes instead of 6 years. So, and the last question is, how do you track ults? And the person was specifically asking as well as if it's mostly just watching the person's body language and like roughly how long it's been since they ulted last time, or if people actually like try and keep track of roughly how much damage people have done. I'm not that serious about it. Sometimes I will if I know the other Reinhardt is like pretty good. Sometimes I'll actually try and like keep track of how much damage he's done in a fight. Just because Reinhardt, it's like pretty straightforward to know how much ult charge he gets off of people hitting people, right? So as long as you know roughly how many people he's hit, it's not that hard to keep track of roughly how much damage he's done. But, like, for the most part, no. The main thing I just go by is how long has it been since I saw that person ult a lot. Like, and if it's been, like, I'm pretty, like, paranoid about getting ulted by a lot of people, so I'm really conservative with it. If it's been, like, 30 to 45 seconds since I saw that person ult, I'm going to assume that if they don't have it, they're pretty close to having it. Especially if there's someone that can build ult pretty quick, right? Like, someone like Anna, she can easily build her ult in 30 seconds. Someone like Soldier can build their ult really quickly as well. And so it'll also sort of depend on what my team comp is, because if I've got like a Diva or a Roadhog on my team, I'll assume they're building it a little bit faster than they would be normally, because those tanks are the ult battery tanks, right? So if I see them on my team, I'll assume they're charging it a little bit faster than usual. And just like, whatever I normally would assume they have, I'd just knock it down by like 10-15 seconds. But no, so I just think about like how long it's been since I last saw them ult, pretty much. Some ults I don't particularly care about, like I just don't track Primal Rage, because like, I don't care enough about it, to be perfectly honest with you. I just don't respect that ultimate enough to really worry about tracking it. So yeah, won't track Primal Rage, but like everybody else I'll just assume, and you can kind of tell when people are looking to ult just by how they're moving around, so that'll give it away as well. Like if you see somebody start like, you see like Soldier start rowing off to the side, you see Ashe start going off to the side, they're looking for a better angle to ult, right? Especially if they weren't doing it previously. But if, like, Zarya's running forward, she's probably looking to use Graviton right now. If Reinhardt's walking around without his shield up, he's looking to use Earth Shatter or bait you into using your Earth Shatter. You can tell a lot by body language, but I'll mostly go by just how long it's been. Elevator music's just playing in my mind. I don't know why. For some reason, I'm having trouble maintaining a train of thought for this question. I'm not sure why. Even just there, elevator music started playing in my mind. Yeah, so I'll mostly just track by how long it's been since I saw them ult, and I'll adjust for inflation. Inflation being Roadhog and D.Va. And I don't worry about it too much. Like, a lot of ultimates, like, you don't have to worry about tracking them too deeply, to be honest. Like, most support ults, you can just assume they have it, right? Like, there are some ults just, you can just assume they have it. Most supports, you can just assume they have it. Support ults charge really fast, so unless you, like, literally just saw them use it, you can assume they have it. Someone like Reinhardt, his ult charges really fast, so you can always just assume he has his, and that'll often, like, do you well also. Yeah, I don't really have anything else, to be honest with you. It's, like, you can get really fractal with it. Like, you can decide to just try and track how much. So if you can see Soldier, right? So you can track roughly how much he's been shooting at people. Reinhardt, he's got a big old hammer. He's swinging into people, fire striking through people. Not hard to track him doing damage as well. Some people, it's just not particularly tenable to track how much damage they've done exactly. Like someone like Genji, Sombra. Sombra's also one where you can just assume she has it. It charges pretty quickly, especially if you have a D.Va or Roadhog on your team. Though, you don't necessarily get a lot of say about what happens with Sombra's ultimate, right? It's kind of, Sombra just decides you're getting emped a lot of the time. Yeah, so, like, you know, watch their body language. That'll be the biggest giveaway, and just think how long has it been. If it's been, like, 30-plus seconds, they're probably getting somewhere close to having it. That's pretty generous for some people. Someone like McCree can struggle to build it that quickly. May will struggle to build it that quickly, so it's not necessarily true. It also depends how many shields you have as well. So 30 seconds is pretty conservative as far as estimates go, but when I play, I like to try and minimize risk as much as possible, so I'll usually be pretty broad with my assumptions about whether or not they have an ultimate. But just think about that, look about what they're doing. If somebody starts going off to the side, they are looking to use their ultimate. If they have a DPS like Soldier or McCree, like a frontline, not a frontline DPS, but like a consistent damage DPS, if you can't see them, they are looking to do something funky with their ultimate usually, so be aware at that point as well. But yeah, that's pretty much what I do. Like, it's something that it's one of those things where people worry a lot about ult tracking, but like, I find it really straightforward. Just like, has it been like 30 seconds since I saw it? If yeah, I'll just assume they're pretty close at this point and start playing around it again at that point. If it's a fast-charging ultimate, I'll just assume that they have it, broadly speaking. Though the ones that charge really fast, there's not always a lot you can do to play around it, right? Like, what do you do to play around Nano Boost, right? You don't play around Nano Boost, you play around the person that got Nano Boosted. Same kind of deal for, like, Coalescence. You don't really play around them having Coalescence, right? You just play around when she starts using Coalescence. So that's the best I got for you for an answer on that one, and so now we're just gonna let this game finish. Not a lot of good questions this week, to be honest, right? Like, couple interesting ones. Like, I thought, like, the pre-engagement ult ones I thought was kind of interesting. Just haven't really thought about it like that before, so I was kind of, yeah, it's kind of an interesting way to think about some ultimates, right? But not much going on this week. So I've been messing around with the 3 blue boys. It's a very bad team comp, I won't lie to you, but my team comps always were anyway. If you've been watching for a couple of weeks, you'll see the 3rd person on my team changes like every couple games I play. I can just never pick anybody that I really like, to be honest with you. Cause like, the person that you have in your 3rd position, or your anchor, which is the actual term used, like, that's kind of a big deal who you have, but, like, the really good anchors, I just don't really like playing. Like, regular Goku, Super Saiyan Goku, is, a very good anchor, but, like, he's just so fucking boring. Vegeta, Super Saiyan Vegeta, very good anchor, also very fucking boring. So that's my issue. Goku Black is a pretty good anchor, but like he's just boring also. Like a lot of the good anchors are boring characters that I don't particularly enjoy playing, and I'm not good enough to play some of the other anchors that are not as broadly good, but like cooler. Cooler's in the game, you know. I'm not very good at that guy, so I don't really play him either. I can't play like Videl, so you know. Anyway, you didn't come here to listen to me like complain about why I'm bad at a fighting game. So anyway, so thank you very much for watching. If you did, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm more than happy to answer. If you haven't already, you can join our Discord and ask questions more directly and have a conversation about them, or just shitpost with us. Start streaming on Twitch Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, 7 p.m. EST till 10 or 11 EST, usually 11. There's a link to the channel in the description below. Very close to being an affiliate. Please like, favorite, subscribe, like that smash button, all that. And if you managed to make it all the way through the video and somehow still enjoyed it, please like the video and subscribe for more content of middling quality in the future, and I hope you found the video helpful.